Hey everyone. 2 weeks ago, an essay I wrote about how my mother and I navigated a rape I experienced when I was 16 won a prestigious literary prize. The head judge, Sizonke Msimang, described it as feminist manner. 2 years ago, I gave a talk about how my home city of Lagos is making its poorest even poorer through violent displacement. This talk was chosen by TED as one of the 10 most powerful talks delivered on their stage in 2017. Last year, I published a memoir piece about the Black feminist sisterhood that helped me accept my queer identity. That piece has now been read over 10,000 times. I say all of this not to toot my own horn, even though most of us women could definitely get better at doing that, but to say that storytelling is my strength. As a young feminist, a queer woman, an unmarried mother, and a child of a culture systematically undermined by colonization, storytelling is how I resist erasure and remind the world that I, and people like me, absolutely belong. That is my power, maybe even my superpower, but I didn't always know this. In June 2014, years before the TED stage and the Gerald Crack Prize and the giant rainbow flag above my bedroom door, I was selected to attend a writing workshop organized by the African Women's Development Fund, also called AWDF, and FemWrite, a Ugandan literary collective. I was 22 years old, raising a toddler alone, and living in my sister's spare bedroom. I was depressed but undiagnosed, suicidal and in denial, and grieving my mother who had died of cancer just 3 months before I gave birth. But for the first time ever, just before I left for Uganda, I filled the occupation section of a form with the word writer. I felt unstoppable. Then I arrived in Entebbe, and 20 minutes into the workshop, I burst into tears because I was overwhelmed with guilt over having left my daughter 6 hours away in Lagos. Halfway through the workshop, I deleted every word I'd written, and at the end of the week, during final presentations, I sat in front of the room, looked at all the writers that had now become my sisters, and said, I don't know why I'm here. I've written nothing. I feel like nothing. I'd been invited to East Africa because somebody believed that I could tell feminist stories, and now everyone had proof that I was just a fraud. But then suddenly, warm arms wrapped themselves around me. You're not nothing. You're here because you have important things to say and you know how to say them. She probably doesn't remember this, but the person hugging me was Theo Sowa, the CEO of AWDF and the most powerful person in that room. As cliche as it may sound, that moment changed everything for me. The Indian author Arundhati Roy once wrote, there's really no such thing as the voiceless. There are only the deliberately silenced or the preferably unheard. Injustice silences people. It almost silenced me. And so much of what is wrong with our world is that we ignore or even embrace this silence. We elevate the voices of the powerful few over the disempowered many. Privileged people are threatened by stories that challenge the status quo and use their power to muffle the marginalized voices telling these stories. But I want to believe that the people in this room are not like that. I believe that we all, like Theo Sowa and her team at AWDF, understand that the best way to use power is to call it forth in other people. What Theo gave me that day was more than a hug. It was something the Black feminist scholar Bell Hooks describes as the most precious gift true love offers, the experience of knowing that we always belong. True love, active, generous, radical love is our greatest power. It calls us to recognize our shared humanity. It drives us to reject exclusion and injustice. It propels us when we hashtag #MeToo, Black Lives Matter, Ni Una Menos, fees must fall, repeal 162, end war on Nigerian women, and so many more. True love empowers us to raise our voices and tell our stories, like I've been doing since that hug in June 2014. 5 years ago, Theo Sowa reminded me of my own power as a storyteller. As a result, I'm standing here today, reminding you of yours. How will you use it? Thank you.